What's going on, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX podcast, and I have been on an amazing kick of talking with a lot of amazing educators who have been recently kind of in my ecosystem, and some people that I've been really excited to connect with from Wedding MBA. I went out to Wedding MBA in November, and you're going to probably be seeing this halfway through the year. And it was just so great to meet so many incredible educators and meet so many people who are tackling different parts of the industry to provide value. And the gentleman that we're going to be speaking with today is the director of education for a company called Floriology. And at the time, I really didn't get the chance, because we just talked very briefly. I didn't get the chance to dive into what he did, but as I dove into it more, and especially after inviting him to be a guest on the podcast here, I was thoroughly fascinated. I think you're going to really enjoy this podcast today. So Jackey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jonathan. A pleasure being here.
So let's just go into what Floriology is right away. We started, like I said, before we turned the cameras on, and I just was like, my goodness, this is what people need to hear. Could you, before we get into that though, in Floriology, how did you personally, what's your origin story, background? How did you get into the wedding and event space, and specifically florals?
Well, I'll try to make it as short as possible, but of course it's not a short story. I'm old, so I've been in the industry for a very long time. I started in, I have a degree in accounting. So let me start there. I was sitting behind a desk, and I tell everyone I was so bored that I wanted to slit my wrist with a spoon, because I had a creative side that I just wanted to be able to reach out, and I just didn't know how to act on that. So I had a friend that called up one day and said, just bought a store I think you'd be great in. Would you be interested in being partners? And I said, yes, and then asked what it was. And it happened to be a flower shop. So that's sort of the way I jumped into the deep end of the pool, so to speak, when it comes to the floral industry. And immediately I bought my partner out in about 6 months, bought my second store, and a couple of years later, and the third store, all in 3 different states. And I specialized in weddings and events. And that's sort of how I got into the event and the wedding scene.
Can we just pause? That's like, you're going fast through this, I know, but that's a huge accomplishment. You very quickly go from, it sounds like, not really having an awareness about the industry to being a part owner, to being a full owner, to opening different shops in a pretty short span of time. Were you surprised that it was a floral shop first? And did you have any trepidation, or were you like, flower, I didn't see that. Okay, let me think about this. Or was it just anything to get myself out of here?
It pretty much was anything to get myself out of there.
Okay.
Sitting behind a computer, although I was really happy that I have that accounting background, because I think that's incredibly important in any part of business that you go into, but especially in this industry. So I wanted so badly to be out of that, but then also too, you don't do anything if you don't. And if somebody knocks on the door, you've got to open it. And I tend to open the door and run on through and see what's going to transpire. And then you're responsible for your own success, your own happiness. And, once I sort of found what I feel like was my calling, I wanted to continue to always be the best. The only way that you can continue to grow and to have a successful business is to, stay on top of trends, do what you can. And I immediately found that I enjoyed that. I didn't know that I would really enjoy being an educator at the time, but, I had to educate employees. The opportunity came up to buy the second shop very quickly, because I was visiting an area you and I were just talking about it. I was in Austin, Texas, visiting some friends, and I happened to find a flower shop that was close by, and they were for sale. And one thing led to another, so I ended up buying that one, and parlayed that into the opportunity to buy the third store, and really just sort of kicked off my career. I thought I would own those shops, and that's all I would do. But what I found through educating my employees, my partners, those that I worked with in those stores, that I really enjoyed education. I enjoyed sharing with other people and what I learned and was able to learn in the industry, and now be able to share that on more of a global scale rather than just locally. I sold my last shop about almost 8-9 years ago now.
Okay.
And strictly am an educator at this point. But I love the floral industry. I love the challenge that we constantly have. And I love sharing with people and sort of seeing, as a teacher, seeing the light bulb go off above their head. That's really what I enjoy more than anything.
Yeah, well, and you kind of hinted at it. You don't just train people here in the US. This is not a local thing anymore. I mean, you have students and people who attend your interactive trainings from all over the globe. Is that correct?
It is. I mean, we started the school in Jacksonville, Florida, with the Floriology Institute as part of BloomNet. And we started the school about 12 years ago. With the intentions always of opening up to anyone that wanted to attend from around. You didn't have to be a member of the service provider. You didn't have to belong to anything. You could just attend. And really quickly, we found that people were so hungry for education. There were so many people who want to get into the floral industry. People look at the floral industry and they're like, oh, you must have an incredible time just working with beautiful flowers always. Well, that part is true, but you still have to know what you're doing. You still have to be able to control the finances and cost and be able to price. And constantly you're selling yourself, especially in the wedding and event portion of it. So you have to be on top of all of those things. And many people was like, well, how did you do that? I've done about 25 weddings with budgets over $1 million. I've done 3 weddings on television, decorated at the White House, worked with the Rose Bowl parade floats. I mean, so I took all of that experience and turned it into what I could share with everyone else. And we found people reaching out from all over the world, Peru and Mexico, Canada, Japan, China. It's amazing because a lot of those countries don't have formal floral education that's available.
When you speak about formal floral educations, are you speaking primarily to those business owners who may have floral shops or may have small practices, like a small business where it's just, they're a solopreneur, maybe it's them and a couple other people? Or are you more educating on the design and how to put an arrangement together and kind of some of the art of it, or both?
All of the above. I mean, it's really important. You can make as many beautiful artistic floral designs that you want to. And if you don't know how to sell them, you can only make those for so long. So I'm a firm believer that you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to take your creative side and that part that you want to feed when it comes to working with flowers and, working with a bride or whatever portion of the business, wholesale or working in a retail shop. Take that. And then also you have to feed the business side, because let's just face it, most artists are not really the top of the business ladder, knowing exactly what to do. They want to work with their art. They want to work with the beautiful flowers, but selling them, managing, marketing, all of that is incredibly important, especially in today's market.
It's one of the things that I am pushing. I've been really pushing hard recently is hiring. And I just feel like for so many of the people in this industry to be able to focus on the art and like what you want to do, you have to hire talented people who are in those other areas, who are experts in those other areas, to allow yourself to focus where you show up best in your business.
Well, even if you are only wanting to be a freelance designer, or you're wanting to be that one person and you don't have a lot of other employees, you still have to sell. You still have businesses to manage. You still have, unfortunately, taxes to pay.
Yeah.
You have all those other things that are incredibly important. So I feel that you have to not just teach trends and what's going on in the industry as far as flowers are concerned, but also how to stay in business. Because, if you look at the reports that are coming out right now, I'll just share with you a statistic. I also am the immediate past president of the American Institute of Floral Designers. And the U.S. just released a report that over the next 9 years, 40% of the retail flower shops will no longer be in business. So if you want to be in that 60% that is in business, you have got to step up your game on the business and marketing side as well, not just the trends.
Jackie, let's talk about that a little bit, because I've heard, and I know many other wedding professionals just at a macro scale have heard that maybe the wedding industry could be declining a little bit. Like there's a lot of demand, but year over year, I think we're seeing the numbers, at least that I've seen, are a decline in the rate of marriages. It's just not as prevalent as maybe it once was. So there might be a little bit of shrinking in the demand potentially, right? But then I also hear about all these wedding venues opening. I hear so many people really excited about getting involved in our industry, which is great. But as coming from a business, background, I'm thinking like maybe lower demand, increased volume of other clients. Would you agree with that? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, if you look at all those statistics, then it's like anything else. You have to, when it comes to media, you listen to everything and then take the best of everything and make an educated decision. But you also have to look at everything that's surrounding those statistics that they're offering. And I think that we are seeing a number of things happen. Especially just coming out of the pandemic after the last couple of years, or at least starting to come out of it. Who really knows where we are with that, right?
But well, and it really depends on, I think, what state you're in. I think the restrictions per state are different. Certainly there are states that are more lenient and handled it in a different way than other states. So yeah, I think it definitely depends regionally too.
But if we look at that, and where we were forced into a situation we weren't comfortable with, that no one was prepared for really, and how it not just changed that moment of time, it's changed things for years to come. There are things that will never go back to the way they were, and we have to meet that. It's not the first time that it's happened in society. It won't be the last time. Mm-hmm. This will happen again and again, and we have to be prepared to meet those changes. The invention of the internet changed things. I mean, it's just, there's so many things, but we're also at a point where generational changes are also occurring when we're moving from that older and younger millennial into that next, and depends on who you talk to, what they call that next generation, Generation Z, or the IT generation, or I've heard several different names. Those two are really the generations that are stepping into that marriage time, but people are waiting longer to get married. They're getting their career set first before. Some people are choosing not to get married at all. So you've got a lot of dynamics going on. Yes, is there a decline in the number of weddings? Maybe. I think this coming year, we'll see a lot take place that should have happened over the last couple of years. So it's going to skew the numbers a little bit. But I think that also will show the generations following behind it, how those events take place will have a lasting effect on those generations to follow. People now are a bit more inclined to have a fewer number of people and do more for them. So they may be spending the same amount of money, but only having 25 to 50 people rather than that 150 to 200, just because they happen to meet them in the parking lot or whatever. So dynamics are going to change, but I think the opportunities are still going to be there. Mm. And you have to always remember that in a moment of change or challenge, decline is always an opportunity for a new business, a new type, a new branching out, so to speak. So look for the opportunity then, rather than focusing on the inevitable that's going to change. Change is a good thing.
That's such a great bit of information, and I think almost like a mindset shift, right? Of how people have to adjust. The question that I have for you is slightly different than, and we'll kind of continue down the floral route here in just a second, but I'm fascinated with that approach. You said you've been in the industry a long time and you've seen some of these different big changes occur in spending, there have been financial crises. Obviously in 2008, 2009, there was a big real estate, crash that happened that had a lot of impact on people's finances. When you're looking at the industry from your kind of pulled back perspective, I've been in the industry maybe, almost a decade at this point. When you look at it from your perspective, what impact do these big life-changing moments have on the industry, and how can a business, because you're still in florals, it's not like you switched and became a realtor or something else. Like, you had a flower shop, multiple flower shops, then you ended up going and doing the education full time. So what have you seen as you stayed in one industry consistently over that time, how to best handle these big shifts?
Well, I just had a very milestone birthday, so to speak. And I've been in the industry for about 40 years. So I'm 60 years old, over 60, and have seen a lot of changes during that time. When we first began, if you had a sign and a telephone, you were a flower shop. That changed. And I was at one of the first conferences where we spent a full day discussing on whether this internet thing was ever going to materialize into anything. So I've been through a lot in the industry, going from adapting to the internet and going from dot matrix to inkjet printing, and now we've got laser printing and all sorts of advances that have been made that have been incorporated into the industry. What I've seen consistently during that 40 years in the industry, those people that are willing to adapt and pivot whenever a change comes towards them, and they meet that, looking for that opportunity, continue to thrive, grow, and go to that next level. Where those people that are resistant to change, that don't want to, I don't want to do that, my clients love what I do, that's great. But those people are steadily going away, falling back. There's a lot of families now that can't even sell their flower shop because their kids know what work it is and want no part of it. So you've got a lot of dynamics that are going on, but if I can recommend anything for those that might be listening, is look for that opportunity and change. Welcome it, change with the industry, and don't fight it, and you'll continue to grow and do well. I've had a really great career in the industry and had the opportunity to do so many things on a bucket list that I never thought possible.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful because, so many people, I think they see the adversity coming or see the change coming and think that maybe it's time to pivot, but like they get way out, they get out of the industry. And so then they all of a sudden lose the crude benefit that they've accumulated over the time that they have put in. So your advice, it sounds like, is stay in the industry, learn, look around you, be willing to change and adapt and evolve, and still stay in your lane, stay in, whatever it is that you do that's great, find a way to do that, accommodating the new thing. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Right. And don't be afraid to step on the accelerator a little bit and move ahead from some of those people that might be behind you. I'm sure you've heard before, the view is always the same from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Be a leader, not necessarily a follower. And I think that you have to be able to be both. If you're willing to be a leader and a follower, then I think your career is going to be a lot more successful than just choosing to be one or the other. Being always a leader sometimes might leave you behind because people will think you're only thinking of yourself. Being only a follower will leave you behind because people will look at you as not having the foresight to want to be something more than what you are. So I think a little bit of both of those are good. If you don't know how to do something, surround yourself by someone that does, because that's the only way to continue to grow, no matter what you're doing, whether it's just weddings or flowers or finances or combining all of that. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help.
Awesome. Great advice, Jackie. Pivoting back to florals and the education that you provide for florists and flower shops, and both on the business and on the practical side of kind of the art of it. Is there a section specifically that you focus on? Because I was checking out your website, saw you're one of the instructors there, and that was really neat to see. And by the way, I love, just really quick sidebar, you guys, if you're watching this online or you're listening, go over and check out the Floriology website. It's very cool. And you guys do a great job of putting in little video bios of each one of the instructors. I love that. That was cool to me. But what do you specifically focus on for folks?
Well, I'm sort of the administrator, the principal, so to speak. So I do a little bit of all of it. I have written most all of the curriculum for all of the courses that are taught here. And we do, not only in-person education, we also do online and then interactive, where it's a combination of both. I actually will send you out the products. You log on to a Zoom call. We instruct. You get real-time feedback. In person, you actually are coming here to Jacksonville, or we're actually expanding, and I'll be in a couple of different locations across the country in the coming year, especially. And then with the online, which is on demand, anytime, any device, you can get business, wedding, beginning, foundational floristry, wire work, sympathy, all the aspects of the industry combined are available on Floriology. And Floriology is a little hard to spell, but I sort of sing it Floriology. Then that way you're able to find us, Floriologyinstitute.com, and you'll be able to find about all of the types of education that we do and that we offer.
Wow, that's incredible. So you really have a suite, it sounds like, of tools that if someone's in this industry, they need to go. Right. And based on what you said before, would it be fair to say that if you are a florist or someone who is in the floral industry, you really need to be investing in education because of what you were discussing earlier with the statistic of how the industry is going to be shrinking? Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, and it's because the education is one of your best assets. The industry is changing sometimes faster than people can keep up with it. And because everyone can't drop and come to Jacksonville, that's why we have online. Actually doing a combination of virtual and in-person learning, I think, is really good. Everyone doesn't learn well virtually, and you can't replace that in-person perspective that you've got when someone's right in front of you. I can teach someone more that's in front of me because then I can see depth and texture and a lot of things that you can't see virtually. So I think combining that is incredibly important. And because so many people work alone, by themselves, or only with one or two people, or they may be the lead designer or owner of the business and they don't have someone standing there saying, that's the way you do it. That's exactly right. That's a great way to look at it, because you have to combine the elements and principles of design, really understanding how to manipulate those in everything you do will make you a better designer. And then the business aspect will help make you a better salesperson. And you really have to be both to continue to grow as you move forward.
I have questions about both of those. Let's take the design and the kind of art of it first. How do you, as the instructor almost, stay up with the trends and stay up with what's ahead? Because as you're teaching people, ideally you'd have information that was constantly updated with where we're at, right, in the industry. Where are you getting that information? Like how do you know what to teach your students?
Well, I have to do my homework, and anyone can, but if you're a business owner and you happen to be in your shop, it's a little more challenging, whereas I do it as a profession. To be able to teach, then I have to continue to learn myself. And I'm part of a product development team in the company that I work for. Not only has the educational aspect, but we also do product development. We do education all over, marketing.
Well, when you say product development, do you mean, are we talking flowers here? Or are we talking
permanent products or holiday products, containers, accessories? That I have access to developing all of that. Okay. As well as work with a lot of the large names in the industry, Smithers Oasis and Syndicate Sales. In addition to that, I do most of the, I told you I'm also the director of industry relations for the company, which means I'm sort of the face of the company. I do a lot of educating out and around the country. So I do presentations to floral groups, state associations, national associations. Being the immediate past president for the American Institute of Floral Design, put me in direct contact with our 2,000 members worldwide. So I get to work with international designers, local designers stateside, as well as in order to do a presentation, I have to be able to do my research, stay on top of what's going on, and then I take that information and I share it through education with the students.
I think it's so cool. Like that global element, I think is so neat because, and here's actually a question. I'm curious, is there a lot of crossover between styles and trends that you see happening across the world versus stuff that's here? I mean, is the US ahead? Are we behind? Are we kind of right between? Like what in this industry specifically, where are we?
It's amazing that, people have a love for flowers, and most people, when they're presented with flowers, their first response is a smile and, oh my gosh, those are so beautiful, no matter what they're looking at. But sadly, in the US, there are about 17 to 18% of households that will have flowers on a weekly basis. In Europe, it's about 82% of the homes have flowers on a weekly basis. It's part of what they do. Huh. They have the green grocer, they go to the meat market, they stop by the florist, and they pick up a bouquet to have in their homes because they embrace that. They make it part of their lifestyle. Here, we make it, we're constantly saying that it's a luxury. It's something that you can do without. And I think that's sad. We focus on using it for celebrations, either celebrating with a wedding or event or celebrating the life of someone through sympathy. Those are the two times that we tend to embrace floral more than any other, where most of the rest of the world embraces it on a daily, weekly basis, 4 times as often as we do. So in traveling around and teaching in other countries, you really get to see not just the appreciation that people have for how flowers do make you smile, but they also really embrace educators within the industry, and they want to learn. They invite you in. You sort of are held in high regard to share that beauty that flowers can bring to all of our lives.
That's so incredible. And that's remarkable. I can't believe that we're lagging so hard. I mean, I think of flowers and I think I have 2 going on 3 daughters and then my wife. And it's like, I bought them each a bouquet and gave them a little card. And
good for you.
But it's like, that was Valentine's Day. And, sometimes I try to be a good husband and, get the random flower bouquet, not just when I'm in trouble. Right. But that for me is like the extent that I would consider florals, right? Because I'm, already married and, so that's so interesting to think. Whereas in Europe, it's a part of daily life. It's a part of almost like you'd have a bowl of fruit or something. Am I hearing that correctly?
That's exactly right. And I think where we are a little lacking on the state side is that we tend to think that you have to go big or go home, bring a big, huge bouquet. Whereas, have you ever just laid a rose on your wife's pillow? No note, nothing. Just put a rose there. What kind of reaction do you think you're going to get? I think it's going to be explosive because it's unplanned. You're not in trouble. It's for no reason at all. And that's what I think that we don't do enough of, is just to enjoy flowers because they are beautiful. The textures are incredible. The fragrance for some of them is just spectacular. So sweet and different than anything else I've ever seen. And when you look at I also paint, and I've tried to mimic the texture of a rose through painting, and it's just almost impossible. No one really has been able to captivate that almost wet look to a texture that is flat, but doesn't look like it's flat. But it's things like that I don't think we take enough time to really enjoy about flowers.
I love that. It's this next level of intentionality and I think observance of what's going on. And I think in the US too, if I were to just speculate, we probably try to be faster at everything. And we sometimes blow by that,
right.
Just noticing, I think the beauty. And so that's really, really interesting. And I'm going to steal that. I think it's probably a good move. She'll be thanking you.
It's really, things that people really miss a lot of opportunities. And I've worked with a lot of celebrities, and there's one celebrity I'm not at liberty to say who it was, but very well known, that came in the entire time we were working together on shooting a movie, and would buy a Gerber daisy. Loved Gerber daisies. That's one of her favorites. Part of her code name was Daisy as well. But she would buy single daisies and put them in an empty Coca-Cola bottle and attach a little note that just said, "Hope you have a great day," or "Thank you so much for what you did yesterday." Times when they weren't necessary, you get even more appreciation, because you're not trying to get out of the doghouse or trying to get off of the sofa, or someone hasn't lost something, or they're not celebrating something. Those are the times that people are really going to remember. It's kind of like a handwritten note. Almost no one does a handwritten note anymore. Add that in there. A little quick note with just a simple saying means more to people than a huge big bouquet is going to.
So maybe the real message here for anyone listening who's not in the floral industry is, first, find where your local florist is and check out what they have to offer, instead of maybe going to like a Ralph's or a, HEB or whatever else, is there. But next, like, just take that moment to use something as simple and as beautiful as a flower to kind of encapsulate a special moment that doesn't necessarily have to mark the passing of a loved one or a marriage or something like that, but just can be a part of everyday life. I think that's beautiful.
And I'm going to take it a step further, because I think it's important to the big boxes of the grocery stores. You want to support their floral department as well. But remember that a retail florist is a professional. They're there to help guide you through that purchase, to help you make the better selection, to help you get those specialty designs, and are there when you might not be able to find it at some of the big boxes. So utilize both, but the main thing is to buy flowers. It makes all of us a lot happier, and it really does help spread smiles.
I love that. Jackie, let's pivot a little bit and talk about the business side. With all of your work with florists and everyone who comes through your education process, are there some character traits or some characteristics that you've identified that really contribute to success when you see someone, maybe even, two people who have maybe similar experiences through your program, but someone who just really knocks it out of the ballpark, and then someone who maybe doesn't do as well?
Well, I see a lot more on the other direction where, I've mentioned this before, that generally artists or florists are not really great bookkeepers. They need to hire an accountant. If you don't want to do it, then get someone in place that can do it. But I would say the people that have had the best success being part of AIFD and the members that strive to become an AIFD member, a lot of them just want to jump right in. They want to, let me just take the test, let me get there. And a lot of times they don't have a successful outcome. Whereas people that plan it thoughtfully, that make a plan and then work that plan, this is my goal and this is the way I'm going to work towards it. That's really what I suggest for anything to do in or out of the industry. When you want something, you have a goal that you want to reach. It's kind of like baking a cake. You can't bake that cake without using a recipe. Some people might, but a lot of those grandmas can't even do that in today's world. But you take those steps, make a plan on how you want to achieve that goal. If you want to increase your wedding business by 10%, don't you first need to know where it is? Well, where is my wedding business as far as what are my sales? And if I want to increase it by 10%, does that mean I need to do 2 more weddings, 4 more weddings, 10 more weddings? Everything is make a goal, make a plan, and then work those two together. And you're going to have a successful outcome.
Awesome. So for the professional that goes through your program who has a plan for kind of what they want their business to look like, whether it's catered towards weddings or whether they're focusing on events or, whatever the case may be, having that plan and spending some time. So that really, it sounds like, takes time focusing on the business side of things, stepping away from the floral arrangements and like maybe looking at a spreadsheet or something like that to kind of understand where you're at currently, where you want to go. Is that
sometimes,
correct?
yeah, and also, it has to be part of the plan, not just that I want to be a wedding florist. I want to do weddings on television. I want to do celebrity weddings. I want to have $1 million wedding. You can't just go from A to B without, knowing how you want to get there and utilizing the resources that are around you. I mentioned that, every course that I've created has some business in it because I think they go hand in hand. But then we also have specific business courses that we focus on marketing and social posting. A lot of people are really uncomfortable being in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. We have an entire course that's built around that because in today's market, it requires being in front of the camera. You've got to be not just selling your product, but selling yourself. If you are, a single owner freelancer that you don't have a big staff that's behind you, you still have to sell. Even if you do have that big staff, generally one person or two have to be those main people that go out for sales. So all of that is part of it. And you really do have to go hand in hand with business and knowledge and experience, trends. All of that has to be a well-rounded package.
I love that. Jackie, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Like, this is so fascinating to me, just someone who doesn't really know much about the floral industry, and speaking with you about everything that you're doing for not just the wedding and events industry as a whole, but kind of specifically this piece. I know I've learned a ton, and I'm hoping that any florists who are listening right now, or even, wedding and event planners, venues, are able to pick something up from this. And I know for one thing, a big thing that I'm taking away from this is just to spend a little bit more time looking at the stuff around me. Specifically, I think finding ways to input flowers and input greenery and input these things into my own personal life here. And I know for sure that it'll make things better. It'll make it a better environment. You know what I mean? Whether it's for my wife, my daughters, my sons even, right?
Right.
And I think that's really important. And so that, as someone who operates wedding venues, it's giving me a whole new appreciation, a whole new way of looking when we have a floral designer who comes in and starts, setting up for a wedding. And so I really appreciate that. And I know that if you're a florist, you'll get so much value checking out Floriology. Where can people connect with you, Jackie, as far as either you personally or just kind of the organization as a whole?
Well, you can reach out to me at info@floriologyinstitute.com. And again, that's FLORIOLOGY. But Floriologyinstitute.com is also our website. You can find out about all of our classes, both in person, online, which is Floriology now. And if you reach out to me at info@floriologyinstitute.com, I'm going to give you a special of $150 off of a membership to our online, on-demand education community.
Wow.
So again, that's info.
Thank you.
info@floriologyinstitute.com. Just to let them know that Jackie said he's going to save you some money, and I'll be happy to get back to you and just explain a little bit about it awesome. To anyone. And I hope, Jonathan, maybe that we can talk again in about a year, because I think it'd be great to find out did you stick to that, sharing, incorporating flowers into your life a little bit, and what kind of result you had. I think that your viewers would love to hear something about that as well.
I like that. I challenge accepted. Let's talk again soon. And I know that I'm going to see you at other industry events. You do such a great job of showing up and providing the education, not just online with your courses, but, also in person at some of these seminars and conferences that happen. So I'm excited to continue to see you there. And seriously, for anyone who's listening or watching online, you're going to have to go check out Floriology. The website is laid out beautifully, really does a great job of explaining what they do. And I know that you'll take a lot of value from that. So Jackie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a lot of fun.
Been a lot of fun talking to you and seeing you again. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure. All right. See you later, folks.